In the real world, we are always setting boundaries within the context of other people's needs, limits, desires, goals, and perspectives. When exactly something goes too far can sometimes be hard to discern, and there's plenty of gray area between assertive and just plain rude. We want to be polite, but also take care of our interests and not be, well, too polite. If striking this balance feels almost impossible, you might try a useful framework that comes from the dialectical behavior therapy, DBT model, that therapists sometimes use with their patients. It's called the DEARMAN acronym, and it can help you stay clear, organized, and mindful during the process of drawing those lines between you and other people. Think of it as a template that can help you say no while still maintaining good rapport and politeness. If you're in a situation where you find it difficult to say no to the requests of others or make your own requests, then this can help. Many times, relationship conflicts come down to just this kind of imbalance. Either we grow resentment because we acquiesce more than we're happy to, we fail to speak up and say what we really want, or we find ourselves saying no clumsily and causing offense and disconnect. To avoid all this potential angst, take a deep breath, slow down, and work your way through the DEARMAN acronym. Describe. The first thing to do is just say what you observe as neutrally and objectively as possible. Stick to the facts and be brief. The goal is to set some background context against which to orient the statement you're about to make. Example: a few months ago, I agreed to house sit for you and watch your cat while you went on vacation. I was happy to do this. I also don't mind helping you out when your mom was rushed to the emergency room last month. Now, you've asked me to house sit again 2 more times within as many months. Express. Next, express how you're feeling using clear I statements that do not rope the other person in. Try to help the other person see why your request or refusal matters to you. Naturally, avoid injecting any blame or judgment, or else you risk activating the other person's defenses. Example: I feel really overwhelmed with the requests and don't have the time or energy to do it. Because I'm your friend, I do want to help, but I also feel really pressured right now. Assert. How you feel should then naturally lead to what you want if making a request, or what you're saying no to if making a refusal. Don't make any assumptions. The key is to be as specific and as clear as possible, and to make clear the connection between your emotional experience and what you're trying to express as a result. Not only does this make you relatable and open a path for others to have empathy, but it makes what you're saying seem reasonable. Example: that's why I can't help you with house sitting anymore. Reinforce. When people hear and respond to a request, show that you appreciate it and say thank you, or acknowledge it in some other way. Relationships are all about reciprocity. People shouldn't respect boundaries or comply with requests in order to get something out of it themselves, but it doesn't hurt to let them know how much it means to you. In the same way, when people respect your limits, acknowledge it. This reinforces and strengthens both those boundaries and the relationship. Example: if your friend is a little embarrassed but immediately withdraws their request, then you might say, "Thank you so much for understanding. I really appreciate that." Mindfulness. When you're asserting yourself, stay present and focused. Don't get distracted by things that could weaken your message or confuse matters. Take deep breaths, Listen to what you're being told and take your time. If you feel overwhelmed, take a step back or ask for some time to think. Finally, stay focused on just one request or refusal at a time. If you mix up several different issues in one conversation, you risk emotional overload or confusion. Example: if your friend's a little touchy and upset about your refusal, you are careful not to mention how much you've already helped them out or how they let you down last year in some unrelated event, so they have no right to be upset with you now. Instead, you keep on the specific issue at hand. Appear confident. You'll notice this is not be confident, but just try to appear confident. Even emotionally intelligent and secure people can find it nerve-wracking to ask for something or say no. But if you let your discomfort run wild, it could make you act in ways that undermine your core message. Whether you're saying no or asking for something, try to cultivate a little poise and self-control. Example: you do a deep breathing exercise before you speak to your friend, and you consciously choose to avoid over-explaining or using softening, hedging language. You calmly and confidently say, "That's why I can't help you with house sitting anymore," instead of, "I hate to say it and I'm so sorry, but I think I'm going to have to say not this time. At least not both times anyway, if that makes any sense. I'm really, really sorry though. It's just that things have been a little crazy for me lately, and I'm so stressed. I hope you understand. Is that okay?" Blah, blah, blah. Negotiate. This is the step where you try to make sure that everyone gets what they want, or close to it. Of course, just asking for something doesn't entitle you to have the request approved, no matter how nicely you ask. Do your best to communicate as clearly as possible, but if someone doesn't hear you or cannot comply, handle it with grace. That means never resorting to making any negative feelings their problem. If they agree, say thank you. If they don't agree, say thank you too. And then decide what that means for the relationship, if anything, and how else you could get your needs met. If you're turning down someone else's request, it is not unreasonable for them to query this and ask about what you are willing to do or if there's wiggle room. Decide how much you're willing to compromise, if any, and communicate this clearly and calmly. Example: your friend says they understand, but ask if there really is any possible way you can come over for just one of the times they've requested. You politely refuse again, but you don't like to see them in a pinch, so you say, "If you like, I can hook you up with a cat sitter that my friend always recommends. I'll give her a call and see if she's available." What would the DEARMAN acronym look like when applied to a request rather than a refusal or assertion of a boundary? Take a look at this example. Describe. I'd like to talk about how we manage the housework between us. I know we keep things fairly balanced, but for the next 2 weeks, I'm having to really put in the hours with my thesis. Express. I feel completely exhausted at the thought of having to do the housework on top of the thesis, and I'm worried about doing well. I've worked hard for this degree, and I don't want anything to jeopardize it at this late stage. Assert. I was hoping that you could take on the bulk of the housework for these upcoming 2 weeks while I finish my thesis. Reinforce. I understand it's a big task, so I thought I might offer to pay you something fair and reasonable to offset the extra effort you'd be making. Stay mindful. I know that we've had our disagreements about housework in the past, but today, I'd like to just focus on these next 2 weeks and see what you think. Appear confident. You maintain friendly eye contact, relaxed and open body posture, and give the other person plenty of time afterward to respond to what you've said. You also make sure you broach the subject when both of you are relaxed and won't be interrupted or distracted. Negotiate. You work together to identify an amount of money that feels fair, a list of chores to hand over to them, and a fixed start and end date. They can't do a full 14 days, but agree to 12, and you go along with this. Alternatively, the other person turns down your request. You respond by thanking them anyway and committing to not making them feel bad for having their own boundaries. It's no big deal. However, if you are in a relationship where you notice that your needs are consistently not met, or that your boundaries are seemingly always pressed on or even violated, you might ask yourself why, and be honest about whether it's a good relationship for you. As you can see, the DEARMAN framework is pretty flexible and can be applied to both the big, difficult conversations, but also the everyday niggles that emerge now and then. You can use it to great effect over email, where you can take the time to craft a response that ticks all the boxes, or you can use it to help you clarify for yourself your position before you broach a tricky topic with someone. DEARMAN will help you stay focused and on track for the best possible outcome. Needs, limits, requests, refusals. It's a constant negotiation. Emotionally mature and intelligent people take responsibility for how they navigate social spaces. They don't let other people take charge of their desires or actions, and they don't wait for it to happen by accident. They know themselves and are secure enough in their own self-worth to confidently seek out what they want and need. But they also know that they share the world with other people, and if they want to form meaningful relationships with those other people, they'll sometimes need to accommodate their wants and needs. Your needs and limits will change over time, and so will your boundaries. Though people don't like to admit it, as social beings, we will need to bend at times to accommodate others. This give and take is not a bug, but a feature of healthy relationships, and it builds trust and intimacy over time. That's why having good boundaries is not just a single activity you do one afternoon and then forget about forevermore. It's something that requires continuous renegotiation, and sometimes you won't get the balance right. In recent years, it's become fashionable to cut people out of your life or have strict, ruthlessly strong boundaries that never budge. The truth is, though, as long as we are socially connected to imperfect humans, we will occasionally feel like we're taking too much, giving too much, or not quite understanding one another. It's not a problem as long as we use these occasions to communicate, learn more about one another, and take the opportunity to demonstrate trust and goodwill. In a way, that's all relationships are, a constant shifting and changing of the barrier line between you and another person. Having good boundaries and the skills to navigate the social world is not about being rigid and inflexible. Rather, it's about being confident in yourself, respectful, quick to forgive, and always ready to learn and adapt as circumstances evolve. Being emotionally intelligent doesn't mean you experience less conflict. It just means you become a lot better at managing and making meaning from it. This has been The Power of E.Q, Social Intelligence, Reading People, and How to Navigate Any Situation. Written by Patrick King, narrated by Russell Newton. Copyright 2023 by Patrick King. Production copyright by Patrick King.